Thank you, Calicut, and welcome Cinema That Feels. I'm talking to Gautham Vasudev Menon, a storyteller that turned silence, love, and longing to cinema. Cinema That Feels. Welcome.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you.
So, how do you feel seeing this? ഞങ്ങൾ ആ ബഗ്ഗിയിൽ ഇപ്പം അങ്ങോട്ട് വരുമ്പോഴേ he was feeling that vibe and was telling ഇതൊരൊറ്റ ഷോട്ടാക്കി അടുത്ത സിനിമയിൽ ഇടണം, right? So how do you
It will
feel?
be very difficult to recreate. Yeah, but it was lovely. I'm going to speak a lot more in English, especially after that chaste Malayalam session that we just saw. My Malayalam will be really bad, so bear with me.
മിക്സ് ആയിട്ട് സംസാരിക്കാം. It's okay, right? ഞാൻ മലയാളം അദ്ദേഹം ഇംഗ്ലീഷ് ഓക്കെ അല്ലേ? Yeah. All right. So you are just completed 25 years in films this year.
Yes.
Give him a big hand. 25 years of fabulous films. Let's start with your childhood. ജനിച്ചത് ചെന്നൈയിലാണെങ്കിലും ആദ്യത്തെ 7 വർഷം എവിടെയായിരുന്നു?
ഇവിടെ തന്നെ കോഴിക്കോടിൽ calicut. We lived in a house near the civil station, Koipatodi quarters. അത് പണ്ടോന്ന് അറിയില്ല, പക്ഷേ that's where we were for 7 years.
And then
Third standard I went back to Chennai. To Madras,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So I think cinema that feels, and I wanted to talk to you about certain emotions. ചില emotions സിനിമയിൽ ഗൗതം കൊണ്ടുവന്നിരിക്കുന്ന emotionsനെ കുറിച്ച് സംസാരിക്കാം. And you can take up any of the films you can talk about, even other films you have seen. So if I want to ask, the first emotion, അതെന്തായിരിക്കണം? See, that was in my romance and love.
Because that's the easiest to
No.
sort of depict. Is what we think, but it's the most difficult emotion to handle. But I think to me it came a bit easy. I just had to narrate stories from my own life and from the people I met. And like for example, I'll tell you, I started writing an action thriller for Mahesh Babu in Telugu, and I ended up writing Vinay Thandi Varuvaya in Tamil. So
And Vinatandi Veruvaya, how much time did you take to write and finish the first script?
Vinay Thandi was 5 days.
5 days.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe if I had written over a month, it would have been a better film, I think, but it was just 5 days of work. Yeah.
so when you write romance, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ആ feeling you have to bring into the emotion and എഴുതുമ്പോൾ, what is that things come to your mind and what is that you feel about? See, we have to feel, when എന്താ പറയുക, Simbu and Trisha meet, ഞങ്ങൾ നടുവിലുണ്ട്, we are there, right? How do you bring that emotions to people, especially for romance?
And I'm not saying people should experience that, and that's when their films also, can have that. But for me, these were experiences largely from my own life. Yes, to recreate, to get an actor to understand is still difficult, and you still have to do a lot of work. But a lot of the visual imagery was in my head. I put myself in the character's shoes, and then I thought, if she goes away from me, then what will I do? And if I'm going to make a film, I'll use that to inspire me. I'll use that emotion to inspire me to write a film. And that's when the journey starts, that whole Aro Malay and, traveling to where they spend time with each other and all that stuff. So I try and put myself in the shoes of those characters. And largely from what I've seen in my own life, there was a woman who lived upstairs. There was a certain feeling about the two of us. And then there was a whole Christian angle to that. And that's when the churches opened up. That's when Alapi came about and all that. So all these are from life, from what I've seen. And I just had to recreate that, bring a crew together and tell them this is what I want, that's what I want. So it seemed a little bit easy to me in that sense, yeah.
That's talking about the next feeling. Can I go to the next feeling of the movies? Okay? So next is, I wanted to ask about the longingness, that for feeling of somebody to earning. അതെങ്ങനെയാണ് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത് in your film, in films?
So, I've been accused of glorifying love. People tell me that that there are no men like, what you see in my films, that it's all fantasy. But I'm like that. My father was like that. So I can't really say that there are no men like that. Like, for me, it's the whole vibe. It's not love at first sight. It's not about the physical appearance of somebody. like I feel a great vibe right now as I walked in. I thought, man, okay, this is worth it. It's worth coming here, right? So that's the feeling that you get when a woman walks past you or when a man walks past a woman. So that's what I hold on to. Now, when two people connect, right, and then they want to spend more time with each other, and then you don't know how to take that next step. You're longing to be with that person, or you're longing to be with somebody. I've sort of depicted that through. I like to take these stories forward through music and lyrics. So when there is a sort of need to take a story forward through music and lyrics, I think I've had the great opportunity of working with some brilliant composers who understood my vision. So music comes to the rescue in a lot of these places. So longing, loss, pain, love, and whatever the emotions you're going to talk about, all these are narrated through songs and lyrics in my films,
Right.
and it comes a bit easy to me, I think. So
When you talked about music, let me go to the music actually. Your songs and the visuals, the visuals comes to very much ആദ്യം തന്നെ ആ പാട്ട് വരുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് ഈ ഒരു that feeling of you're talking about anything, മഴയാണെങ്കിലും കാറ്റാണെങ്കിലും ഒരു ചിരിയാണെങ്കിലും ഒരു ക്ലോസപ്പ് ആണെങ്കിലും ഒരു കണ്ണുനീരാണെങ്കിലും it becomes extremely close to us. And എത്രയോ കാലത്തിന് ശേഷം മിന്നലെ the first scene where she comes out ആ മഴയത്ത് ഡാൻസ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ he's taking a phone and phone goes off. How do you depict these scenes? ഇപ്പോഴും എനിക്കിത് ഓർമ്മയുണ്ട്, ഞാൻ ചെന്നൈയിലെ സിനിമ കണ്ടത്. So that is a way of filmmakers way into your heart, their visuals, your perspectives. So musical കൂടെ ഇത് എങ്ങനെയാ കൊണ്ടുവരാറ്?
So the music is written in the script. It's written in the screenplay. I take the story forward through lyrics,
Yeah.
and I even put down the genre of what song this should be. So when I sit with the composers, I'm able to give them a very clear idea. I just don't tell them, "Inge your love song, Venu," or I want an emotional song here. A lot of talking, a lot of explanation, a lot of writing is actually put out there. And I've tried to dabble in music myself. I wanted to impress a girl, and I thought I must play the guitar to impress her. She wasn't impressed at all, and I'm still trying to learn to play the guitar. So I am musically inclined in that sense. So to put music down in writing and take the story forward through lyrics sort of comes easy to me. And I think any emotion can be taken forward with with music and lyrics. Yeah.
Talking about your songs, particularly visuals were about, but then see you have music in you and you work with one of the best people like A.R. Rahman and Haris Jayaraj and Ilayaraja sir as well. So working with them, and how would you, because they have their own way of bringing the best and you have to raise the bar because you have something in your mind. നമ്മുടെ മനസ്സിലുണ്ട് എനിക്ക് ഇത് വേണം, I want that. So അതെങ്ങനെയാണ് ആ രണ്ട് വേൾഡും കൂടി ഒരുമിച്ച് വരിക?
So, in 25 years, I've done 20 films. One is unreleased as yet, but it's a completed film.
It's coming this year.
It'll come out this year, yes, yeah. Usually, when I say it'll come out in April, they'll say which year, they'll ask. So, I'm very, very positive that this will come out this year.
I saw
So,
you
out of 20 films, I have 85 songs from my work, out of which 45 is Haris Jayaraj's songs, and the rest are spread between Rahman sir, Raja sir, and Darbuka Shiva, and Karthik also did a film
Yes.
with me. And
That was
yeah,
with Prayaga Martin and
that was a Netflix anthology. There's a film called Joshua that I don't talk about.
Yes, yes.
That was done by Karthik.
Yeah.
So all these songs that you've probably heard, are all first tunes that came to me. Like she asked me whether I've been like asking for, no, this is not what's in my mind. Can I get some more? Never. So far, whatever tune, it's not that I couldn't have asked Rahman sir. In fact, when I sit with Rahman sir on a composing session, he'll keep asking me. Like when the tune of Talli Pogade, the song, if you heard Talli Pogade, when it came to me, when sir composed it, he asked me, the sound's a bit quirky, shall we do a couple of other tunes? But I loved it. I loved the quirkiness of that whole song. So I grabbed it. So all these 85 songs have been the first tunes that sort of wafted through the air and came to me.
Yeah.
And I felt good about the tunes. I vibed the tunes. There was a wavelength about the tunes that I took to Tamare and lyricists like Tamare and Karki. Tamare, of course, played a big role in I know, so like most of these songs belong to audio labels. But if 3 or 4 people didn't put their minds to those songs, the audio labels can't get to own those songs, So this is the work of 3 to 4 people. Like in my case, it's the composer, the lyricist, and the singers who've contributed to these songs reaching you. And I think I've just been lucky. Yeah.
In 85 songs, 45 is like personal. Something which is basically took a lot of time for you to accept it, because sometimes, you know, ഇത് വേണോ ഇത് വേണ്ടയോ എന്നൊക്കെ ഒരു ഫീലിംഗിൽ വരുമല്ലോ. And then sometimes I asked Mr. Rahman also this, when you hear Rahman's song first time പെട്ടെന്ന് നമുക്കത് ക്ലിക്ക് ചെയ്യില്ല, ബട്ട് നെക്സ്റ്റ് ഡേ മോർണിംഗ് നമ്മൾ വായിൽ അത് ഇങ്ങനെ ഓടിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കും, നമ്മൾ പാട്ട് ഇങ്ങനെ പാടിക്കൊണ്ടേയിരിക്കും ലൈക്ക് എ ചെയിൻ. സോ ഫോർ യു അങ്ങനത്തെ ഒരു ഇതുണ്ടോ, ബേസിക്കലി ടു ആക്സെപ്റ്റ് എ സോങ് after it's fully done and it matching your visual, how is your process from that to the table?
No, so the visual and the visual imagery is written in the screenplay, based on which the song is composed.
Yeah.
Like to the finer details, it's narrated to the composer. Almost, I'm not even joking, 8 to 10 hours of discussion. And only then Harris will actually start working on the keyboard. Rahman sir will pull out something from what he already has, or he'll compose fresh. Raja sir for Nidana in Ponvasanam, in one day we composed some 8 songs. In one day, in about 2.5 hours, we finished 8 songs. But all the visual imagery is described to them. So when I get the song, it only makes it easier for me to go back and film it.
Right.
So a lot of work goes into, getting a song from a,
Talking about your women characters, എനിക്ക് എപ്പോഴും ഒരു മലയാളിത്വം താങ്കളുടെ എല്ലാ സ്ത്രീ കഥാപാത്രങ്ങളും കണ്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്. ഫോർ ജെസ്സി മലയാളിയാണ്, ആൻഡ് ദെൻ റൈറ്റ്, ആൻഡ് ദെൻ ഐ റിമെമ്പർ സിമ്രൻ ഇൻ വർണ്ണമായിരം വാസ് എ മലയാളി ഗേൾ കെയറിങ്, ആൻഡ് ഓൾവേസ് ദേ വെയർ എ കേരള സാരി. മാൾട്ടയിൽ ഷൂട്ട് ചെയ്താലും മദ്രാസിൽ ഷൂട്ട് ചെയ്താലും ഒരു കേരള സാരി ഉണ്ടാവും. ആൻഡ് സോ ഹൗ ഡു യു റൈറ്റ് ദാറ്റ് ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സ്, ഹൗ ഡു യു കം ഇൻ ടു ദിസ്, സോ എന്താ പറയുക, എലഗൻ്റ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള സ്ത്രീ കഥാപാത്രങ്ങൾ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്ന സ്ട്രോങ്, എലഗൻറ്റ്, ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുൾ അലോങ് വിത്ത് മെൻറ്റൽ ആൻഡ് ലുക്സ്, ബട്ട് സ്റ്റിൽ ഹൗ ഡു യു ബ്രിങ് ദാറ്റ് ബെസ്റ്റ് ഔട്ട് ഓഫ് ദം? ആൻഡ് നമ്മളിപ്പോഴും ജെസ്സിനെ കാത്തിരിക്കുന്നതാണ്. സോ ഹൗ ഡസ് ദാറ്റ് ഹാപ്പൻ?
Well, I'm inspired by the women in my life. Most of the women characters are drawn from my mother, my sisters, and the women that I've met. In fact, at home, people are scared to talk in front of me because I might use some of that in the films and stuff like that. So, I think I write women characters well, but there are women who argue with me saying, you don't know, women at all. And I'm sure every woman will probably say that a man cannot know a woman at all in that sense. But we'd like to think that we know you. We'd like to believe that we know you really well and that we can write you really well. But I've put out the word also to a lot of women writers to write stories and, women-oriented scripts where women are the protagonists and maybe there are no men also in the story. And I'm ready to direct films like that. But if that doesn't come, then it's only us. We have to try and write these women characters. And I think I have a certain understanding of women, and it's largely the women that I've seen around me. Maya and Kakaga was completely inspired by my mother. The clothes she wears, she's a teacher and all that was completely inspired by, and the way my wife talks and stuff like that. And then there are many other women that I can't probably talk about in public, but inspired by, these women. So it comes a bit easy to me, I think.
Yeah. But most of the time, ഞാൻ നോക്കുമ്പോൾ എന്താ വെച്ചാൽ താങ്കളുടെ ഹീറോസിന് അവരുടെ ഹീറോയിൻസിനെ കിട്ടാറില്ല. There is a loss all the time. Why?
Most men don't get their women, right? I mean, that's the longing in life. That's what keeps us going also, I think. And that's the beauty of life itself. Okay. So I like writing those characters. I like writing those moments. I've been accused of killing the women off. I probably won't do that a lot hereafter. But for me, I translate even like a first love going away or the losing of a first love into almost like a death kind of a scenario, which is why I convert that into death and, make them, root for the woman and then find someone else. And life goes on. So, yeah.
Personally asking if I can, അങ്ങനെ ഒരു first love moving away, Karthik found his way, right? But how did you...
I didn't.
He's still with you?
Yeah, of course. You can never lose a thought of that, moments of that first love or the woman that you met and hung out with and wanted to be with. And then when she goes away, I probably started wanting to be in films because of that. That emotion hit me so strong that I wanted to write, I wanted to travel, I wanted to read, I wanted to, be lost in my thoughts. And that somehow gets converted into the creative side where people like me make films, people like who were here earlier probably start writing stories. So that's the, creative side that comes out because of women, I think.
So I think you should thank her.
I have thanked her enough, I think. So, yeah.
നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലാണെങ്കിൽ പറയും ആ കുട്ടി പോയതോടുകൂടി അവന്റെ കാലം തെളിഞ്ഞു എന്ന് പറയും. Okay, so that's not the case with you. your directors, when you have worked as an AD with not Mani sir, but still first you
Rajiv Menon, sir.
Rajiv Menon sir.
Yeah.
And then I remember for Vinnai Thandi Veruvaya or Minnale, you had to narrate your story to Mani Ratnam.
Yeah.
So you were not so happy about doing it. Is that true?
Yeah, so it's actually a little different from what you said, Rekha. I finished engineering and I wanted to work with Mani sir, Mani Ratnam sir. So I hung outside his office for more than 2 years. But I also happened to meet Rajiv sir. Actually, my mother sort of gave me introduction to someone Rajiv sir knows. And Rajiv sir took me in. So I worked on a film called Minsara Kanavu as assistant director. But I was still trying to see if I could work with Mani sir at every point. Cut to 5-6 years later, when I was setting up my first film, met Madhavan, talked to him about the story. He said, I'll do the film, I like the story, but you have to narrate too, Mani sir. And I told him, please don't do that to me. I'll never be able to give him a good narration because I wanted to work with him. And he is, someone whose films I completely read, study. Those were my textbooks actually. I didn't go to a film school. So all Mani sir's films were my textbooks, right? So to narrate to someone like that is going to be very difficult. But he insisted and I narrated to Mani sir and Mani sir said no. He told Madhavan, don't do this film. Yeah. But Maddie somehow decided he will do this film. And that's how Minnale happened. Yeah.
I think there's an interview he did with Mani sir, and that is a fantastic interview for his movies too.
Thank you. Yeah.
And coming to Chala cinema Tamil work cheyum. But when it goes to another language, which is Hindi, for example, Rehna Hai Tere Dil Mein, which is Minnale went there, and Kaka Kaka became forced by John Abraham. How do you adapt to the cultural things? So, if you are in so comfort with Tamil Nadu, a feeling, a visual, longing and frames you have in mind, complete vera audience in cinema, what is that you decide not to use from your personal version?
I generally think the audience is the same everywhere. I think a film will speak, the content will speak, language is immaterial. Today, needless to mention, all of you know, we watch films from across. Everybody's watching Malayalam films with subtitles if they can't understand the language, but they love the content. So I also believe that the audience is the same everywhere. But you're right. Minnale to Rehna Tere Dil Mein was really not my film in that sense because there was a producer who was very controlling and dominant. He wanted the film handled a certain way. We shot most of Bombay in Durban in South Africa because he said Saif Ali Khan will come only if we shoot in Durban. So I had to adapt to the scenario there and everything and make it look like Bombay. I didn't like that, but I had no choice. It was almost like a first film. Force was just my story. I didn't direct it.
Yeah.
But I made Vinnai Thandi in Hindi with Pratik Babbar. It is called Ek Diwana Tha.
Yes.
It's another film that I don't talk about much. But ideally, there was a need to make these films into other languages.
Yeah.
But ideally, just leave the best alone. Don't really go out there and take it to another set of audience. Believe that the audience across will see this film.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about men in your films. I always find a masculine vulnerability in it. Even for Kaka Kaka Surya and Ajit in Enna. Apo അതിലേക്ക് അവർക്കൊക്കെ അവരുടെ വിഷമങ്ങളും ഇമോഷണൽ ഇതൊക്കെ കാണിക്കുന്നുണ്ട് ഒരു കുട്ടി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഭാര്യ മരിച്ചു അങ്ങനത്തെ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ കൂടെ കാണിക്കുന്നുണ്ട് സോ ഹൗ ഡു യു റൈറ്റ് ദോസ് ക്യാരക്ടേഴ്സ് ബട്ട് ദേർ ആർ സൂപ്പർ പോലീസ് ആൻഡ് കോപ്സ് അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള ആൾക്കാരാണ് ഭയങ്കര പോയി ഗുണ്ടകളെ അടിക്കുന്നു തല്ലുന്നു ബട്ട് തിരിച്ചു വരുമ്പോൾ they have that feeling of we get attached to that man. He's not a cop anymore for us. അതെങ്ങനെ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത്?
Yeah, I think it's me. It's a lot of us. Most men are vulnerable. And a lovely woman can make a man cry in a good way, I'm saying. A mother can make her son cry. I'm longing want to be with your mother. And a woman who you love and you want to take a journey forward with can definitely make you feel emotional. She can make you cry. And again, I'm saying it's in a good way only, I'm saying. So it's the women that drive these men. If you look at Satyadev in Arindal, if you look at Anbu Chelvan in Kaka Kaka, the only time he breaks down and sheds tears is when Maya is not there anymore. Right? But otherwise, he's a no-holds-barred cop. Madhavan will fret and fume as, the character that he played in Minnale because he made a mistake with that girl. He shouldn't have pretended to be somebody else. So men become vulnerable when there are women around.
Okay.
So there's no two ways about it. Yeah.
But talking about that, when you're working with superstars, avarku perception avരുടെ ഫാൻസിന് അങ്ങനെ കാണാനുണ്ടാവും. So how do you align to that? അവരുടെ fans expectations, I know that you will not budge like that, but then expectation of their own hero being seen with this kind of elements. For example, Spider-Man കരഞ്ഞപ്പോൾ ഒരു സിനിമയിൽ ഞാൻ ഞെട്ടി, Spider-Man കരയോ? Even James Bond, he was also making breakfast for his girlfriend's son. So that has become a more, ഇപ്പോൾ ആൾക്കാർക്ക് accept ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും because these are human beings. So
thankfully, the superstars that I've worked with have not behaved like superstars. Mammootty sir, for example, I made a film called Dominic. It was so beautiful to work with him, so easy. I'm not saying it because I'm here. Kamal sir on Vetiyadu Vilayadu, he completely just, said, okay, this is your script, you do whatever you want. Ajit in Yenai Arindal kept asking me to tone down all the massy dialogues. So I've been fortunate to work with these three superstars who understood that the content is what needs to work, and there need not be moments separately for the star, who will show up in the character. So Mammootty sir, for example, since we're talking about him, he completely understood what this character is, and he played something that only he can, in that sense, something very simple and, almost debauched. He's borrowing from his, the lady who owns the place. He's blackmailing a few people just to make some money and all that stuff. So he completely understood this, and he was vulnerable right through.
right.
And he agreed to be in this film, and he agreed to produce it also. So I've been very fortunate to have worked with superstars who believe that content is what makes,
അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സൂപ്പർ സ്റ്റാറിനെ പറയുമ്പോൾ വേറൊരു സൂപ്പർ സ്റ്റാറിന്റെ കൂടെ എന്താ ഇതുവരെ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യാത്തത്?
I haven't got an opportunity. I'd love to. Yeah.
You'd like to see Lal sir with him, no?
I'd love to, seriously. Yeah.
This is the caption tomorrow for multiple scenes, I'm telling
Okay.
you. So, talking about the movies, താങ്കളുടെ സിനിമകളിലെ silence, how do you create that silence? But definitely അത് നമുക്ക് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് അത് എഫക്റ്റ് ആവും. You don't sometimes use music ഒന്നും ഒരു എഫക്റ്റും ഉണ്ടാവാതെ ആ silence will happen. ആ ഒരു കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റിൽ you can refer some scenes maybe, but how do you create that?
It's there's a theory in Tamil cinema amongst the filmmakers and assistant directors and all. When we edit the film and when we go into post-production, they tell you to pack it with music so that the audience doesn't become restless. Even like a 1 minute, 2 minute sequence where there's absolutely nothing, no music, no sound effects, just holding two people looking at each other, they'll say, let's pack it with music. Because that's so wrong, I feel. You need to, the background score should merge with the scene and not necessarily elevate the scene, is how I look at, the score of every film. There's a film that didn't do really well, but a film called Enenoki Payam Tota with Dhanush and Megha. There's a sequence inside the room where they're just looking at each other. They're looking at each other, holding each other, not even talking, just not saying anything. And we held it for about 2 to 3 minutes. In the theater, when I saw this film, I realized that there was a bit of restlessness, but I had no two thoughts about it. I loved, the way Dhanush portrayed that, the emotion there and stuff like that. So it takes guts to pull off silence like that. And I've learned that by interacting with people like Raja sir, where there'll be a note of silence left in his scores. He'll say silence is so important, he'll say. And so I've learned from the masters, I think. So, yeah.
As Rajesh sir did the movie,
Needani and
Pon
Vasantham.
Yeah, what lovely songs.
Yeah.
And when you select the singers, I remember Karthik telling me that you tried multiple people. Rajesh sir tried multiple singers, and then Karthik was in. I don't know. He told me a couple of years back. So, how do you? അതായത് താങ്കളുടെ നായകന് കൃത്യമായിട്ട് ആ ശബ്ദം അത് കറക്റ്റായിട്ട് ലാൻഡ് ചെയ്യണം എന്നുള്ളത് മ്യൂസിക് ഡയറക്ടർ വിൽ ഹാവ് ഇറ്റ്, ബട്ട് ഹൗ ഡു യു ഓൾസോ മേക്ക് ഷുവർ ടു കൺവിൻസ് ദ മ്യൂസിക് ഡയറക്ടർ?
No, so that's a call that we collectively take, but we have been experimental. Like if you remember a song called Vasigara and Minnale,
Bombay.
It was sung by Bombay Jayashree. The heroine is Reema Sen. So ideally a Bombay Jayashree voice, industry-wise, they'll say, no, let's get somebody younger or maybe, a normal voice, I'm saying. Bombay Jayashree's got a very different sort of a timbre and, tenor and all that stuff. So, but we took that call, and I remember it being one of the most beautiful recordings ever.
Yeah.
It took us somewhere else. I know we do SP Balasubramaniam sir for Kamal sir, but in Vetiyadu Vilayadu we did Unni Menon. We tried Srinivasan. So we tried different voices also, in that sense. So yeah, there's no fixed rule as such as far as we are concerned.
ഇത്രയും റൊമാൻസും ഇത്രയും കഥകളും മനസ്സിലൊരാൾ സഡൻലി യു സ്റ്റാർട്ടഡ് ആക്ടിങ്, റൈറ്റ്? അതായത് ഐ റിമെമ്പർ ഇൻ വേട്ടയാട് വിളയാട് ദർ ഇസ് എ സോങ് ആൻഡ് യു ആർ ഇൻ ദ ബാക്ക് ന്യൂയോർക്കിൽ വെൻ കമൽ ഹാസൻ സർ ആൻഡ് രണ്ടുപേരും നടന്നു പോകുമ്പോൾ യു ആർ സിംഗിങ് ആൻഡ് ഡാൻസിങ് ഇൻ ദ ബാക്ക്. സി ഇത് ഇടയ്ക്ക്, സോ അപ്പോഴുണ്ടോ ആഗ്രഹം അഭിനയിക്കണം എന്ന്?
ഇല്ല, I never wanted to act. Even now, I still don't want to act.
എല്ലാ സിനിമയിലും ഉണ്ട്.
But when a couple of big directors call you, for me, it was just a door opening. It helped me. And I wanted to be on their spaces. In fact, the first director who called me to act was Anwar Rashid in a film called Trance. And he met me in Chennai, and I asked him, but why me? He said, no, I like the way you talk in your interviews and all that. And I just had to be myself.
Yeah.
Except for one shot where I'm jumping and getting cut and stuff like that. So Anwar saw something in me, and then Vetri called me, and people call me in that sense. So I don't enjoy it. It's not something I look forward to. But if somebody big or some interesting filmmaker calls me just to be on their units, to learn, to observe, I'd love to be a fly on the wall.
What is more difficult? താങ്കൾ പലരോടും ആക്ഷൻ പറയുന്നു.
Acting is the most difficult thing ever. To be not conscious of how you are and to act in front of 100 people and emote a particular way. What I don't like about acting is the director wants you to do something very particular. Most directors don't let you be natural about it. They'll say even don't blink your eyes so much. Can you look down? Can you look up? So you have to remember the lines and languages. I've done Telugu, I've done Malayalam, I've done a screen test in Hindi. So it's not very easy to do that, right? So Bazooka was live sound, where I acted with Mamuka, and we had to talk to each other. And sound was recorded live, so I had to learn my lines much in advance and all that stuff. So acting is not easy at all. If there are actors here, huge respect for actors. Yeah.
ഒരു കുസൃതി ചോദ്യം. When somebody tells you to, അത് ശരിയായില്ല, ഒരു റീടേക്ക്, അനദർ റീടേക്ക്, അപ്പോൾ കുറേശ്ശെ ഇറിറ്റേഷൻ വരാറുണ്ടോ? Because you also do that.
ഇല്ല, I've decided that morning that I am whatever the director wants me to be.
Yeah.
And I just do it. And you're getting paid for it, so you might as well do it.
Correct. Yes, I'm your...
Yeah.
Another feeling I've seen in your movies is like a fear, an obsession. ഈ ഒബ്സെഷൻ ഭയങ്കരമാണ്. ഫിയർ ആൻഡ് ഒബ്സെഷൻ ആൻഡ് ഹോപ്പ്, ഇത് മൂന്നും ഞാൻ താങ്കളുടെ സിനിമയിൽ കാണുന്ന ഫീലിങ്സ് ആണ്. സോ how do you bring in that elements to it?
I'll convert that to the negative characters, the antagonists in the film. I think we all have that, the dark side, the grey side, that most of us don't cross that line. But when you cross that line, those are the characters that you see in my films, the negative characters.
Yeah.
Sometimes they become more popular than the heroes, actually.
For example, Pachakali Muthucharam.
Yeah, Villain Soman.
We never thought that ഇവരൊക്കെ എല്ലാം വില്ലന്മാരാണ്.
And even Arun Vijay in Yenne Arindal.
One fantastic villains.
Jeevan and Kaka Kaka. So these characters are very well written. And then I think they're all me. I have that in me, I think. So I can act it out to them, and my dialogue delivery is very good when it comes to negative characters. But in real life, I don't cross that line, that's all. Yeah.
So when you direct, do you enact? അതാണോ അങ്ങനെ you do like this, no, you enact and tell him that this is what you...
Ideally, I don't want to. Obviously, to Mamuka and all, you don't act and show. You just tell him this is the scene, this is the mood, and you wait to grab something beautiful that he gives you with Kamal sir and all that. But with certain actors, they want you to do like not that Simbu can't pull off anything, but he'll always tell me, just show me once, and then I'll pick up on that, he'll say. Surya also is someone like that. In fact, a lot of people tell me that the body language that Surya showed in Kaka Kaka and Varanam is completely me and all that, which I'm not so happy about, because that's not what I wanted to do. But we did a reading of the script in Kaka Kaka where we acted out the whole... So I remember going to the shoot and Surya telling me, Ila, that day you did it like this, so can I do the same thing and all that. So there's a lot of, discussion that goes on.
ഈ 20 ഫിലിംസിൽ ഒരു സിനിമ മലയാളത്തിലേക്കും ഇപ്പോൾ if you want to do a remake ചെയ്യണമെങ്കിൽ ഏതായിരിക്കും ആ സിനിമ, and who will act in it?
ആക്ച്വലി ഇവിടെ പച്ചക്കിളി മുത്തുച്ചേരം റീമേക്ക് ചെയ്യാൻ കുറെ ആൾക്കാർ ചോദിക്കുന്നുണ്ട് ഇവിടെ. അതെ,
ആരെ മനസ്സിലുണ്ടോ?
A couple of actors have asked me, but I don't want to mention names right now. It'll look like I'm name throwing, but honestly they said they really like this film and can we do it. But no, I have a lot of scripts that I want to make in Malayalam, no remakes.
Okay, good.
I have a lot of ideas that I want to convert. കുറെ റൈറ്റേഴ്സിന്റെ കൂടെ ഞാൻ ഇന്ററാക്ട് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. ലോട്ട് ഓഫ് റൈറ്റേഴ്സ്. I'm actually reading a script that a writer from here has sent me. So I'll probably be, ഞാൻ ഒന്നും പറയില്ല അപ്പോൾ, but I'm going to take that forward very soon. Yeah, I've always tried to make a Malayalam film. Somehow I think Tamil and Telugu just kept me busy. Yeah.
ടോക്കിംഗ് ഓൺ മലയാളം സിനിമ, നമ്മളൊരു ബെസ്റ്റ് ഫേസിലാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ. നമ്മൾ ആദ്യം പറഞ്ഞത് ഞാനൊക്കെ സ്കൂളിൽ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ 80s ആണ് സുവർണ്ണകാലം, പക്ഷെ അതല്ല ഇപ്പോൾ. ഇറ്റ്സ് ലൈക്ക് എവറി അതർ ഫിലിം ഹാസ് ഗോട്ട് റേസിംഗ് ദ ബാർ എന്നൊന്നും പറയാം. സോ താങ്കൾ തമിഴ്നാട്ടിൽ ഇരുന്നുകൊണ്ട് മലയാളം സ്ക്രിപ്റ്റുകൾ വായിച്ച് മലയാളം സിനിമയിൽ അഭിനയിക്കുന്ന ഒരാളായതുകൊണ്ട് ഞാൻ പറയാണ്, ഹൗ ഡു യു സീ മലയാളം ഇൻഡസ്ട്രി നൗ? ക്ലീഷിയർ ക്വസ്റ്റൻ അല്ല, സംതിങ് യു സ്പെസിഫിക്കലി സോ വിച്ച് ഇസ് മിസ്സിംഗ് ഇൻ അതർ ഇൻഡസ്ട്രീസ്.
No, I think the way they put the films together, because I've acted and because I've directed, I know it's completely different from how we make it there.
Yeah.
It's done in 50 days. There's a lot of planning. There's a lot of pre-prod that's done. We do that also, but for us, it's a lot more spread out and largely dependent on the stars and the actors. Here, they make sure everybody is available from beginning to end, and the schedules are given to you, and you just have to be there to film it.
Right.
So that was my experience with
Right.
Dominic. Also went off really well. We finished the film in 45 days. But even with content, even with the way, like, I can't take some of these story ideas to any of the star actors in Tamil. They won't do the film.
Yeah.
But here they're so open to doing, roles that are flawed, characters that are rural, characters that you don't normally see. But those are real life characters, everybody there, and I'm not trying to put the Tamil industry down as such, but everybody wants the whole film should be a 20 introduction scenes sort of thing. But here it's not like that. So the content from here is, like everybody knows and everybody said, it's brilliant, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. Yeah.
Before I go into the audience, the last ചോദ്യം, if you have to create a romantic story from this group, what will be the first visual coming to your mind? ഇതിൽ നിന്നൊരു സിനിമ താങ്കൾക്ക് ഉണ്ടാക്കണം. ഇത്രയധികം ആൾക്കാർ ഇവിടെ ഇരിക്കുന്നു, you are talking, you are seeing someone, and any spark for you to create a character from this group?
No, after this session, as I'm walking out, somebody from the ladies section comes up to me and says, can we meet? Can we talk? And we take a story forward from
പെൺകുട്ടികൾക്ക് മാത്രമേ ഉള്ളൂ കേട്ടോ, ആൺകുട്ടികൾക്ക്. ഓൾ റൈറ്റ്, വിത്ത് ദിസ് ഞാൻ ഓഡിയൻസിനെ ചോദിക്കാൻ പോവാണ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്. എനിബഡി അല്ല, എല്ലാവർക്കും ഉണ്ടാവും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ്. യാ.
Oh, as the title of the session suggests, cinema that feels. Most of your movies, the stories that you have told, we feel it over here. Be it every emotions. നമുക്ക് ഇവിടെ തട്ടും. That's the crowd that has gathered here proves that. അപ്പോൾ we have talked about every emotions, fear, love, longingness. What about pain? I guess you are a person who feel everything so deeply. So has it ever occurred to you as a burden to feel everything so deep? So how do you handle pain in your real life? And when you convert that into a story, does that differ? So feeling everything so deeply.
പെയിൻ.
I handle pain in two ways. I'll tell you two examples, you'll understand that. One is, அவ என்ன தேடி வந்த அஞ்சலோ, அவ நேரத்தை பார்த்து செவக்குயமா வெத்தல, அவ அழக சொல்ல வார்த்தை கூட பத்தல, அட இப்போ எனக்கு வேணும் அஞ்சல. Okay, that's one. You know the feel of this song, right? I'll tell you another feel, and that's the other way I handle pain. And I wish my friend Alphonse was here. Aromale! So these are the two divisions of pain. It's and that's how I handle. One is you get inspired by the pain. You get inspired by the pain, and it's not a very sadistic or masochistic way to look at it. I'm saying you get inspired by the pain to create something, to do something new, to meet a few people and stuff like that. The other is the Angela kind of pain where you're wallowing in it, and you need some external force like a father to sort of move you forward and stuff like that. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
So first of all, huge fan. സാറിൻ്റെ മൂവിൻ്റെ റീലീസ് കാണാൻ വേണ്ടി കൊച്ചിയിൽ നിന്ന് ചെന്നൈ വരെ പോയ ആളാണ്. So
thank you.
What would you want to be remembered for?
I see. I mean, it's too early to say that, but I honestly feel, and since I'm in that space right now, it's 25 years of work, but I convert everything into music. There's a lot of music in my writing. There's a lot of music in my films. I wanted to test this out, and I made a film called Nadnisi Naigal, which had no strain of even a musical instrument. I think it was too way ahead of its time. It didn't work at all. It came after Vinay Thandi Varuvaya. But there's music in me. There's music all around me. I do everything with a lot of music. So, but I'm not a composer, right? So I'm answering your question this way. I want to be remembered in my films for the connect with music that you got from my films, I'm saying. So, yeah.
My question is, you love so much and you love women so much. How in a very respectful way,
Thank you.
in a very respectful way, would you ever portray love through the lens of a woman? And another part, you make women look so beautiful in your movies. Would you ever use a woman that looks like me or most of the girls here in your movies?
I love your accent, and I love the way you are. I have no issues about that. I don't want to name women who've acted in my films. It'll probably answer your question because there'll be
Yeah.
one. You know what I'm saying, right? But if you've seen Enne Arindal, that 20 minutes with Hemanika and Satyadev is completely driven by the woman, a very
Yeah.
strong woman who knows what she wants, who comes after this man. And that's not the only thing. There's a moment where he will ask her, I believe you have a dance school and you don't charge any money to teach dance. She says, yeah, they can't afford me, she says, but so she's very sure about that. So I think even Maya and Kaka Kaka, and then the effort is continuing. Hopefully the next 25 films, you'll see a lot more of that. So, yeah.
First of all, thank you for making such a beautiful romantic movies. தமிழில் கேட்கலாமா
எதுல வேணா கேளுங்க.
சார்? நான் கேட்குறது என்னென்னா, உங்கள் படத்தில் மேன் ஹீரோ எல்லாரும் சொல்கிறாங்க ஆம்பளை அழக்கூடாது, ஸ்ட்ராங் மேன் நெவர் கிரைஸ். பட் உங்கள் படத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா சூர்யா கூட 6 பேக் வச்சு அழுதுருப்பான். அண்ட் ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் the conversion of frustrated angry men to a strong man. இப்போ மின்னலை பார்க்கலாம், வாரணாயிரம் பார்க்கலாம், எந்த படத்தில் பார்த்தாலும் அவர் ஒரு பெரிய லாஸ்ட், அதுக்கப்புறம் ரொம்ப ஃப்ரஸ்ட்ரேட்டடாக ஆங்கிரியா, ஆனால் அவர் லைஃப்பில் சக்ஸஸ்லுக்கு கன்வெர்ட் ஆகிறேன். அந்த ஃபீலிங் ரொம்ப இப்போது சாரி வாரணாயிரம் பார்த்தீங்களா, நான் ஐ திங்க் நான் பார்த்தது வந்து அன்கட்டட் வெர்ஷன். அந்த டெலிஃபோன் பூத்தில் யூஎஸ்லேருந்து கால் பண்ணும்போது ஹி வாஸ் க்ரைங் டு ஹிஸ் மாம். அது வந்து ஒரு லாங் ஷாட். I think ரொம்ப நேரம் எழுதியிருக்கான். ஸோ யூ போர்ட்ரேட்டட் தட் கேரக்டர் இன்ச் பை இன்ச் வித் அந்த ஃபீலிங் ஆகாமல் நீங்கள் அதை கேப்சர் பண்ணியிருக்கேன். அண்ட் ஆஃப்டர் தட் ஒரு நம்மளுக்கு அந்த படத்தில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா நான் பர்டிகுலராக அந்த படத்தில் கேட்குறேன், நம்ம கன்வர்ஷன் வந்து ஃபேமிலியிலேருந்து ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுறேன். இந்த உலகத்தில் ஒரு அப்பாவும் தன் பிள்ளைக்கிட்ட சொல்ல மாட்டா, அவர் லாஸ்ட்டில் வந்து அழுதுட்டு இருக்கும்போது நீ போய் ஊரை பார்த்துட்டு வா, யூ ஜஸ்ட் கோ அண்ட் ரோம் கம் பேக், எனக்கு தெரியும் நீ திரும்பி என்கிட்ட வருவேணும். ஸோ நம்ம யாரும் சொல்ல மாட்டோம் நீ எங்கேயாவது போயிட்டு வாணும், இங்கே இரு, ஏதாவது பண்ணிடுவோன்னு பயமாக இருக்குன்னு தான் சொல்லுவாங்க. ஆனால் யூ ஜஸ்ட் கிரியேட்டட் சம் லைக் இன்னோவேஷன் தாட்ஸ். லைக் உனக்கு ஏதாவது பிரச்சனைனா நீ போய் எல்லா இடத்துலையும் பார்த்துட்டு வா, யூ வில் பி ஓகே. அண்ட் ஆல்சோ அதே சீனில் வந்து
I understand. You like it or you don't like it?
I like it. I like it. That's why
I was just getting a bit worried.
How you portray that such a particular...
No, so I'm saying the six-pack and all has got nothing to do with how a man is. I mean, yeah, you need it to be fit. I train 4 days a week, but I can't say I'm a strong man because of that. A man who stops to smell the roses, a man who cries about what's happening around him is the man. I mean, you know that. You don't have to ask me that.
சார் அண்ட் ஆல்சோ அந்த கொஸ்டின் அது அதோட நெக்ஸ்ட் சீனில் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா இந்த சிம்ரானாக உட்காந்துக்கும் போது ஃபாதர் சூர்யா வந்து அவரை காலை ப்ரெஸ் பண்ணியிருப்பார். ஸோ இது வந்து அந்த சன் சூர்யா
Press பண்ண மாட்டாரு, டச்
பண்ணுவார். ஸோ அது பார்த்துட்டு இருப்பாரு. ஸோ அந்த லவ், அந்த இமோஷன் அது ஃபேமிலியிலிருந்து டெவலப் ஆகுது. ஸோ அந்த
I've said this before. I think every man's place at his woman's feet. I've said this before. So, yeah. I'll be saying the same thing again and again.
Okay, next one.
Hi, sir. Right, I'm over here.
Hi.
Okay, so I saw the movie VTK with Silambaras and the actor. So I noticed like he started off as a very timid, shy person, and then you see this confidence coming in towards the middle. So what sort of work had to go in that? I know it's very technical compared to the others, but yeah.
No, I love it. That's a lot of work that we did. So I sometimes feel that film didn't get noticed as much as we wanted it to be noticed,
Yeah, it was like the way he walked, and I was like, wait, how did he go from that walk to this? But I felt it sort of
Yeah.
seamlessly
Yeah,
transitioned.
Interestingly, we were about to do a love story. We were almost 10 days into shoot of a love story. And the producer came and asked me for fight sequences in that love story. So Simbu and I discussed saying, we'll work on a completely different idea. And we made this story in about 10-15 days. And that's how Vendathanidha Card started. He did a lot of work for that. The character Muthu starts off from a village. Although he studied in school and a bit of college and all that. What happens around him, makes him just like all of us in life. even me, I'm sorry, I'm putting myself in those shoes. I never used to talk so much at all. Even now, once I leave from here, I'm probably an introvert. I don't speak much. But if I have to get my way across in front of a unit of 100 people, if I have to explain to an actor that this is what, the imagery that I have in mind, I have to put myself out. I studied in a school where Rajiv Menon used to teach Prabhudeva how to dance. Can you believe that? So I learned from that. So it's the environment that makes you, that. And we did a lot of work for that. Yeah. So.
I wanted to talk about Gita Kambi Melin Indra. So, huge fan of that anthology. And you were talking about your connection with music. What inspired you to write the characters, Netra and Kamal, in spite of the fact that you have a connection with music? And Prayaga Martin allarnengil vera aaru ചെയ്തിരിക്കുമായിരുന്നു ആ റോള്. And what happened to Kamal and Netra at the end? It's left to viewers' imagination, right?
Thank you for asking me this question. I have a whole script on two people called Kamal and Kadambari. They meet, and I love these. Like I just said, you're right. I walk out of here and somebody comes up to me. I mean, I don't want to be in that space. I'm just saying. But I love moments like that where two people just connect. They take a whole evening forward. They discuss. They realize they're passionate about music. So Kamal and Kadambari meet in London. And Kamal talks to Kadambari about how he met Netra a few years ago and how she's not in his life. Of course, we didn't have the budget to shoot in London. So I just picked up the Kamal Netra part and we did that. Okay? Because I love these. It's like a. Okay, as an example, if you've seen the Before Sunrise, After Sunset kind of films, I've not seen both these films, but I know these are the films that just bring two people together, put them in a space, they talk about music, they talk about life, and then maybe they get together or not, we don't know, right? Just like so many people we meet in life. So and Prayaga was like, well, she was brilliant. What she did, many people might not get it, but what I'm saying is, she completely drove that character the way she did it. I had rehearsed with her completely something else, but when she came to the first take, she did something which is there in the rest of that film. And PC sir and me, we looked at each other and we were a bit confused. And then we said, okay, let's go with what she wants to do. So I completely left it to her to play that character. So if you didn't like that character also, it's Prayaga. If you liked it also, it's Prayaga. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. I just wanted to ask, as a director, you're somewhat the whole director of the whole ship. And when there's opinion from the producer or say someone else who also has the same level of power as you do, there are certain pressure points that you have to deal with and you have to regulate it so that it doesn't pass on to people below you or people who work under you. So how do you manage the stress levels?
It's tough. If you can notice, I've lost a lot of hair on my head because the guy who puts in the money has the final say, right? He's the producer. He will own the IP. We want producers to be inclusive. We want them to know the script. We want them to know hands-on what's happening on shoot. Mammootty sir honestly was like that on Dominic. He knew from A to Z what was happening, right? But there are certain other producers who will just put together a project and then they'll disappear. The funds will keep coming. They'll keep cutting it down. And then when the film is all ready, edit is done, they'll come and look at the film. First thing, they won't even see the film. They'll ask you, length, they'll ask. Okay? I'll say, look at the film. See the film. No, tell me what the length is. So I'll say 2.5 hours. Yes, sir. 2 hours, 15 minutes. Without even knowing what the film is all about, what the story is, what the mood is and all that. They know an idea of the film. And then they'll ask you to chop off 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So these are... And it's come to me almost with every film that I've done, except a few. And I handle it. You have to handle it because if I didn't want to handle it, then I should put the money in. But since I didn't put the money in, he is... In Tamil, they call producers Mudalali. So, yeah.
Hi, sir. My absolute privilege to ask you a question. Sir, I'm like all of us sitting and standing here are pretty much sure that you have attended a lot of interviews. And what I want to ask, I don't know whether this will sound cringe, but what is your favorite kind of conversations? Maybe not in screen, I would like to know in real life, in your own version.
In real life, the favorite kind of conversations that I've had?
Conversations, yeah.
Honestly, you look at every film of mine, I've had those moments. Vindetandi, Kaka, when Jyotika and Surya meet outside the school where the sports days happen. Nidane in Ponvasandam, a lot of moments from Nidane in Ponvasandam. those are the kind of conversations that I like to have. Cafes, libraries, about books, sitting on an aircraft and somebody sitting next to you and, has eaten too much, so she's feeling nauseous and she wants to puke. So you just reach out and hold her hand and say, there's a pressure point. Stuff like that, and then you try and recreate that on screen. And then you get scolded also for that. So yeah, all that. Yes, yeah.
Those who are in Chennai would know ഇദ്ദേഹത്തിന് ഒരുപാട് coffee shops കാണാം. I have met you multiple times.
Yeah.
All right. Anything last for Calicut?
And this is another conversation that I've really liked because I like these interactive sessions. In fact, when I do these events at college and seminars and all that, I don't do speeches at all. I can talk, but it's just that they're not interested in listening to speech. So straight away, I throw the floor open to people asking me questions. And I love this. And this energy, the atmosphere here is brilliant. So I'm so happy I came here. Thank you. Seriously.